I feel like I have a lot more life to live and see where my life is going to go. I finally feel like I have shaken off all of this darkness.
Okay, just watch this. Hayden Panettiere is dead at the young age of 36, in absolute shock after Hollywood abused her and she started speaking out against its demons. This child actress pipeline girl from Heroes in Nashville got destroyed like so many others. In her tell-all memoir, released 3 months before her death, she detailed domestic violence, addiction, giving up custody of her daughter. She made calls from inside the house about the predators, forced crying scenes as a little kid, and the psychological toll that left her struggling with mental health and postpartum depression. Police claim no foul play, yet she dies right after exposing the elite Hollywood music predator system. Nickelodeon employed convicted child molesters. Stars like Cameron Beer describe demonic sex parties, and the industry rots people spiritually with pills and booze until they collapse. Same fate hit Michelle Trachtenberg at 39. These demons go after children to ruin them for life, and once she opened her mouth, it was over.
Hayden Panettiere was found unresponsive in Greenville, South Carolina, and her death is now under active investigation. Just days after she came forward about being pressured into intimate relationships with powerful Hollywood figures at only 18 years old, she turned up dead. And the police still won't say what killed her. Here's where it gets disturbing. While authorities are staying tight-lipped on the cause of death, TMZ is already out here pushing the overdose angle hard. That's the go-to move Hollywood pulls whenever someone with inside knowledge dies under suspicious circumstances.
I wasn't capable of being fully aware of what was going on around me. And it wasn't until I found myself in predicaments that I realized, like, my perspective completely shifted, and I realized that I was in danger. But by the time I'd realized I was in danger, I was quite literally out to sea. And this was somebody that I trusted so wholeheartedly to protect me, and it never crossed my mind in that moment that she would put me in a position of harm in any way. And it was just like, this is a happy pill. It'll give you energy and it'll make you feel great.
Yeah. It's the same playbook, over and over. And it looks like Hayden is the latest name on that list. It gets worse. Her boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, a man with a well-documented history of physical violence toward her, was reportedly one of the last people seen with Hayden before she died. Right now, investigators are looking into whether he played any role in what happened to her. That's not a small detail. That's a red flag the size of a billboard. Here's what we actually know from reports. Police and EMS responded to a call about an unresponsive woman who was later identified as Hayden. Paramedics worked to save her life on the scene, but she was pronounced dead before she could be transported.
So they have now released the redacted incident report from the day that Hayden passed. It has list on there who was with her when she collapsed. So the report says that Brian Hickerson, Hayden's current boyfriend, as well as his brother Zach, were on scene. They were with her when this happened. Report says, I spoke with Zach Hickerson first. He advised that this was his brother's girlfriend. Some of this is redacted, but you can see where it says that obviously something happened to Hayden, and then they called 911.
As of now, the Greenville Police Department hasn't released the emergency call or an official cause of death, citing an ongoing investigation.
Now, they also state on here that they observed Zach to be very emotional during this entire process. The EMS was working on Hayden. Brian did not appear emotional until the moment that she was declared dead, and then he lost it. That also says that Brian handed a police officer a bag of the medicine that she was taking. That's all they say about it.
But here's the thing that doesn't add up. They say they can't confirm the cause of death because they're still investigating, yet somehow the overdose angle is already circulating in the press. How does that work exactly? If the case is open, why is one very specific narrative already being floated? If you followed Hollywood cover-up stories at all, you know the overdose excuse gets pulled out the moment a celebrity's death raises uncomfortable questions, especially when that person actually had a history of addiction. And unfortunately, Hayden did.
The bottom of a bottle. I didn't have any negative feelings towards my child. I just knew I was deeply depressed. And I didn't know where, the alcoholism was ending and postpartum was beginning. And I ran myself pretty ragged.
That history makes it easier for people to accept the OD story without asking too many questions. That's exactly the point. Back in 2022, Hayden opened up publicly about years of battling opioid and alcohol addiction. She traced it all the way back to when she was around 15 years old, still working as a young actress in the industry. Someone on her professional team handed her what they called happy pills before red carpet events, telling her it would make her more energetic and engaging during interviews. At 15, she had no idea that was wrong or what it was setting her up for. As she got older, casual use quietly turned into something she couldn't shake. It escalated into a full opioid addiction, and alcohol became tangled up in that battle too.
You've been in rehab before, but in 2020 you eventually returned for an 8-month stint that changed your life. In the book you wrote, "If it was the last thing I did, I was determined to turn my life around."
When I got to the point of looking in the mirror and seeing my eyes had turned yellow, and that I didn't recognize my body anymore.
Doctor's telling you, you're 30 years old, Hayden. You won't live to see 35.
Yeah, if you do not stop immediately. So, and I was like, I can't do that to me, and if I can't do it for myself, I'm gonna do it for my child.
By her own words, substances became things she felt she almost couldn't survive without. And then came one more crushing blow. After welcoming her daughter Kaya in 2014, Hayden was hit with severe postpartum depression, and things only spiraled from there. She's opened up about struggling to bond with her baby and having no idea what was actually going on inside her head. No one had ever sat her down and explained what postpartum depression looked like, what signs to watch for, or what to do if it hit. That silence cost her. She started leaning on alcohol and substances to cope, and that dependency slowly swallowed everything: her work, her sense of self, and most painfully, her relationship with her daughter. By 2018, Kaya's father, Vladimir Klitschko, had been granted full custody, while Hayden stepped back to focus on getting stable. She later admitted that handing over custody was one of the most agonizing decisions she'd ever had to make. But she believed in her heart that Kaya was safer with her father while she fought her way through it.
No matter how many years go by, it will always be beside me, and it will always be, I will always be heartbroken about it. I will never be able to get over it.
And you and Vlad came to the realization you could not be together, but also for the safety of Kaya, she needed to go and be with him. We talked about how adults did not protect you. In this moment, you were trying to do what was never given to you, which was to protect her.
Generally, you either tend to become your parent or you go in the opposite direction. And I mean, becoming a mom, even regardless of the postpartum depression, my want to fiercely to protect her from what I went through overpowered any need that I had or want that I had as a mother.
She entered inpatient treatment in 2020 and stayed for close to 8 months. And just when things were finally starting to look up, life hit her again. Her brother, Hayden Panettiere, passed away only 3 weeks before the premiere of Scream 6. The grief wrecked her. Reports surfaced, suggesting she may have relapsed in the wake of that loss. And honestly, who could blame her?
Oh yeah, there's nothing in my life that feels like losing my other half. We were so close, and the heartbreak has changed, but losing him and realizing how much of life I was gonna have to go through alone and without him, when I always saw him as being there. The day that my parents are not here, when he first died, I just remember screaming, I don't want to live in a world where he doesn't exist. So I've unfortunately had to, but he seems so alive in my head still. He was such a big personality. So angry to see that there are bad people thriving in this world, and then one so good that's just taken from you. Why? It's not fair.
Now here's where this story takes a sharp turn. Right around the time Hayden died, she had started talking. Really talking. She was putting names and details out into the open that a lot of powerful people desperately wanted kept quiet. She wasn't easing into it or softening her words. She was going all the way. A few months before her death, she released her memoir, This Is Me, A Reckoning. And it's exactly the kind of book that makes Hollywood uncomfortable. the kind they'd rather you never pick up. But Hayden released it anyway, fully aware of the risk, and then she was gone almost immediately after. Before the book even hit shelves, she sat down with podcaster Jay Shetty and described one of the most disturbing moments of her life. When she was just 18 years old, a Hollywood agent she trusted led her onto a boat.
That moment shook me. It was shocking, and I had been having a great time. There was no hints of anything like that happening. I was led by somebody that I had grown to trust and see as a protector and somebody who had my back, and to be walked down the stairs and presented as though it was like a surprise. And it was this very small room, and she physically put me in the bed next to this undressed man who was very famous and had his hands like this was just, an average day for him. This is something that happens all the time. And I waited for her to leave, and that lion in me, that fire in me, that my hair stood on end, and I became ferocious. I was like, this is not happening.
She said the man in that room is someone the public would recognize. Something inside Hayden snapped. She described feeling a sudden fierce surge of clarity, knowing she had to get out of that room immediately. With nowhere to go on a boat in the middle of the water, she ran and hid wherever she could find cover, fully aware that no one on that vessel was going to take her side. People were dying to know who this mystery woman was. So, naturally, the internet launched its own deep dive and started digging up old paparazzi shots of her partying on yachts around 2007, surrounded by her inner circle. One name that kept coming up was Diana Jenkins, a former Real Housewives of Beverly Hills cast member who was allegedly in that group. And here's where it gets really interesting. Turns out, there'd already been a rumor circulating that Diana was a Hollywood madam. That rumor came roaring back in 2022, and Diana responded by filing multiple lawsuits. Her team went straight to TMZ with a denial, making it crystal clear that she had nothing to do with any of it, and warned that legal action would follow for anyone who kept spreading the claims. Now, 2007 was also the exact year Heroes was at its peak, and Hayden was constantly in the spotlight, dating her co-star Milo Ventimiglia, and always photographed with famous company. All of those people have since been speculated to be the ones who were on that boat with her. And according to Hayden herself, not a single one of them stepped in to help her, even as she was visibly crying for help. Word started spreading that Hayden's memoir hit a nerve with the very people she was writing about, and the theory goes that they wanted her silenced for good. But the story doesn't stop there. On top of Hollywood allegedly pushing the addiction narrative as a cover-up, people noticed there was another angle being pushed, one that pointed the finger at her on and off boyfriend, Brian Hickerson. Now, this is not a defense of this man. He built that bad reputation all on his own. In fact, Hayden had gone on the record about their toxic relationship in detail shortly before she died, which doesn't paint a pretty picture for him at all. And get this, he was actually on a plane with her from Los Angeles to South Carolina the day before she died, making him one of the last people to see her alive. That detail, combined with the history of violence between them, turned him into a serious suspect in the eyes of the public. Their relationship had been public knowledge since May 2019, when he was arrested on suspicion of felony domestic violence involving Hayden. That case ended up being dismissed in September 2019. Then, on Valentine's Day 2020, he was arrested again in Teton County, Wyoming, after Hayden told police he had assaulted her during an argument and punched her in the face. Days after she obtained a protective order, California hit him with an 8-count complaint, and 7 of those 8 charges were felonies. Back in April 2021, Brian pleaded no contest to 2 felony counts of injuring Hayden. His sentence came with 45 days in jail, 4 years of probation, 52 domestic violence classes, and a 5-year restraining order keeping him away from her. At the time she came forward, she said her reason was simple: to empower others trapped in abusive situations and to make sure he never had the chance to hurt anyone else. But here's where things take a turn. Despite everything, the criminal case, the restraining order, the public fallout, they eventually reconciled. She said their reunion was conditional on him staying committed to his recovery, and that he understood he'd brought the consequences on himself. So where does that leave us now? Brian isn't being declared guilty here, but he is sitting firmly at the top of the suspect list. And even if her death turns out to be something bigger, something tied to the stories she told in her memoir, he still doesn't walk away clean. He's the perfect person to take the blame, and everyone seems to know it. The FBI investigation is still ongoing, and until those findings drop, the questions aren't going anywhere. People online are already drawing their own conclusions, with some saying she was silenced the moment she decided to speak, and others pointing to her grief, her postpartum struggles, and the suspicious timing of the yacht story as pieces of a much darker puzzle. So what do you actually think happened? Was she silenced for what she revealed? And is Brian being set up as the fall guy while the real story stays buried? Drop your take in the comments, because this conversation is far from over. Subscribe for more Hollywood deep dives, and see you in the next one.